Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's virtual pre-EHFF. It's a deep dive session, which is brought to you by EuropeActive and our partners. This is the first virtual warm-up to the Europe Health and Fitness Forum in November. I'll take that as an opportunity to make sure you've all booked. Please make sure you do. Crucial event. We'll be able to see each other once again. But today we will first take stock of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our sector in Europe. And then we will ask industry representatives and experts to define our ecosystem sort of great transformation in key areas towards 2025. Things are going to be different, things are exciting, and things are challenging. So we'll look forward and we'll see where we're going. So going on to today, first of all, we're going to bring you a live presentation of the completely new 2021 European Health and Fitness Market Report put together by Karsten Hollasch from Deloitte and EuropeActive Ambassador, familiar to all of you, Herman Rutgers will run this presentation, and that will be live from our studio at the FIBO headquarters in Düsseldorf. These reports, of course, are impossible without sponsors, and it would be remiss of me not to name them, because these are people who are making it possible for us to keep the industry informed. So in alphabetical order, I'm hugely grateful to Basic Fit, BRP Systems, Excerpt, FIBO, GoFit, MyZone, Pure Gym, Technogym, and Explore. Lots of people sponsor various events, but those are the people who have seen the importance of this report, put their hands in the pocket, and made it possible for Deloitte to produce what they're going to present. This market presentation report will be followed by a groundbreaking, a very forward-looking live session on expanding and strengthening female leadership in our sector. You've seen the people who are attending. I've been in this industry for 30 years, and I have been on or witnessed or attended some outstanding seminars with some outstanding speakers and influencers. But this has got to be right up there as one of the best. What a group of people. And the key question is, how do we ensure top level leadership which representatively reflects our members, consumers, and workforce, and which is sufficiently talented and bold to turn current challenges into future opportunities? I really think we're going to take a lot from that. I think the debate goes forward. This female leadership session will also be brought to you live from our studio in Düsseldorf. And it links, you all know about the pillars of the EuropeActive sectoral manifesto, but this links fairly into the community pillar, and this presents our key rethinking for the reopening, recovery, and renewal of our ecosystem during and after the pandemic. And this is a crucial area. In addition to the community pillar, the other three pillars of our manifesto, as you know, health, digital, and standards, along with community, all linked together. And we will offer on-demand sessions today by insightful industry representatives and experts. Under the said manifesto headlines, our experts will, present concrete initiatives for essential improvement, which should define the ecosystem in a constructive way for positive change from within, as we put this pandemic where we want it, and that is in the rear view mirror behind us. So in order not to build our sector, rebuild our sector post-COVID, but also to renew it for renewed business opportunities and renewed broad recognition of our role and essentiality as a health and well-being solution. I 100% understand the pressure people have on membership and driving revenue and getting balance sheets to all work and the people coming back to the gyms and capacity issues and all that things. But in society, we must continue to share, learn, and act as we have done like never before during the pandemic. This health opportunity is there and we must embrace it. We must continue to unite and harness our collective brain power and further empower our representative trade associations. They are absolutely crucial, not just EuropeActive, but your associations in the countries you're in order to effectively elevate our professional standards where they need to be elevated and kick in the doors that need to be kicked in. Let's get out there. Let's be that bold industry in order to promote our potential when it comes to the health and well-being of our community. Let's make sure to keep the positive, collaborative and sort of transformative momentum that we've all seen, we've all been part of during this pandemic. And as we move out of this shadow of COVID-19 and together ensure a brighter and promising future for our sector, embracing those challenges have been setting and making a difference. Our live and on-demand deep dive sessions today, inspiringly warming us all up for the hugely exciting program in Cologne in the first week of November. So it's all about sharing, learning and acting for our industry's essential improvement. And I would like to thank all of today's industry representative and experts, speakers and panelists for volunteering to inform, inspire and motivate us all to make sure that our sector becomes the best possible version of itself in the years to come. And I would like to thank you all for not only attending this today and being there in November, but taking these actions and making them happen and feeding back and being part of this exciting journey. I also want to take this moment to share my gratitude to the EuropeActive team's steadfast dedication and hard work during the pandemic, and specifically for putting the greatest EHFF and pre-EHFF program together for our industry gathering in the first week, when we gather in the first week of November. It honestly is taking it to another level. It'll be our first large-scale physical on-site gathering since the ISM in November of 2019. And we are a get-together kind of industry, so let's face it, we're all looking forward to it. But please note that registration for that event on the 3rd of November is open on europeactive.eu. So if you haven't booked your slot, please do. My gratitude, of course, also extends to our EA ambassador here today, Herman Rutgers, and our partners at Deloitte for the great accomplishment of gathering and assessing the data for this year's market report during an extraordinarily difficult time for our primary stakeholders. You know, these reports have come out annually. This will be very different. It's a different world, but it will set the scene and will set the facts for where we are and what is happening. The new European Health and Fitness Market Report can now be bought via EuropeActive's website, and you guys, as our deep dive participants today, will get it for just €99 per report, which, believe me, with the level of work and everything and the content within it, is an extraordinary price for our industry's global leading market data publication. Finally, I would like to express my profound thanks on behalf of EuropeActive to all the sponsors of not just this report, but the people who make the President's Council happen, the President's Council for Suppliers, Digital and Tech, as well as those for operators, and all the people who make these EHF virtual sessions, as well as the EHF and other FIBO week events in the week of November possible. So with that, I'm really excited to be able to hand you over to Herman and Karsten, who are now live from Düsseldorf, and I wish you all some great pre-EHF deep dive sessions. I'm super excited about this, super excited to be coming out of a pandemic. What a great industry. This is the start of more gathering of information, getting in there, making a difference. So let's all sit back, take our notes, make a difference, and crack on with what is going to be a hugely exciting day. Thank you very much.
Guten Morgen, liebe Freunde. Good day to all of you fitness friends around the world. My name is Herman Rutgers, as David already alluded to, and I'm speaking to you from the FIBO global headquarters here in Düsseldorf for an exciting session where we're going to present to you the headlines of the 10th publication with Deloitte and the 9th publication on the European market that we do together with Deloitte and a lot of other people who give input to this report. Today we will have first Karsten Hollasch from Deloitte, a partner with whom I have had the pleasure to work with for the last 10 years. He will give an exciting presentation on the headlines of the report, and then that will be followed by questions. You can use the Zoom Q&A function to send in your questions, which we will then, I will then pass those questions on to Karsten. We also have received some questions before this session, so that is going to happen very soon. One other comment in terms of the report itself. At the end of the session, we will show you the information how to order the report and under what conditions you can order it. There is a special promotion for those who want to order today, those who are participating in this webinar. So without further ado, Karsten, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Herman, and a warm welcome from my side as well. Wherever you are, best regards from Düsseldorf and here at the FIBO. And this is actually our second virtual presentation after September last year. And I'm really looking forward to meet you in person again, see you hopefully in November at the FIBO or at the EHFF in November in Cologne. First of all, before I start with the report, thanks to my team and thanks to all the contributors to this report. We have been in touch over the last couple of months in order to compile this report, and you all know how difficult that is to gather all the information from all the different markets. So warm thanks from our side and from my team side for all the contributions you made. Without that, it would not have been possible to get these numbers together. So today, within the next 40-45 minutes, followed by Q&A, we will focus on those topics similar to what we have done over the last couple of years, obviously with a strong pronunciation of the COVID-19 effect, to the pandemic effect. So we will look at the markets. We will focus on 3 key markets in Europe, being Germany, the UK and Spain. Plus we will also discuss obviously the overall picture of the other markets in the EU. I'll come to that in a minute. We will have a look at the major operators, how they have reacted and how they have dealt with the crisis in terms of numbers, in terms of members. But we also show you examples how operators have done after the pandemic. So very late results, sharing with you after the pandemic, how those operators are doing. As every year, M&A is a focus here. We have seen M&A transactions as well during the pandemic, and we will discuss this with you. Again, talking about the ecosystem and trends, obviously the digitalization has been accelerated during Corona, so there have been new operators, there have been new peers joining together for this purpose, and we will discuss that. And last but not least, and that I think will also provide you with a lot of thoughts for Q&A, we will try to come to an outlook how this pandemic over the last year plus has been affected and what will be the continued development when the pandemic will be not ending, but will haven't had that much of an impact on the industry, and if we are still in reach of the goal of 100 million members by 2030. That was, as you know, the slogan of EuropeActive, and we will discuss that. So the report includes, as I mentioned, EU plus 6 other countries. So in total, we discuss 33 countries in the report in various levels of detail. As mentioned, very detailed on the UK, Spain, and Germany. Plus, we will have another 16 short market profiles, and all the others have been incorporated into the overall numbers. And I'm going to discuss the overall numbers with you now. So as you can see here on this slide, we have seen a continuous development, a continuous growth over the last couple of years. We all have been favoring that. That has been one of the milestones of the industry. And last year was absolutely specific. It was absolutely special to us, to the industry. So after a compound average growth rate in terms of the membership around 5%, in terms of the revenues of 2 to 3%, we have seen a significant drop caused by the pandemic and the related lockdowns, shutdowns of the studios in the last year, being 15% in terms of revenue, in terms of members, and even more, 33% in terms of members. In terms of revenues. So why is that? Obviously, the shutdown period has affected many of you, and very differentiating. So if you look at the countries here on the slide, we have showcased here how much the countries were affected by the shutdowns. In the first wave really happened in March for most of the countries, with Italy already started in February. And some Scandinavian countries, especially with respect to Sweden, they have literally not closed the clubs. They have remained open, and you see here the facts and sorted by order average share of open months, with Sweden being open the entire year. And then the 3 countries which we're going to discuss in a minute. Germany have been opened 67%, Spain 63%, and the UK as one major country being affected severely by approximately 50% of lockdown of their studios in the last year. So that also explains a lot why we see different dynamics in terms of revenue loss and membership loss in the 3 selected countries. So this slide shows, after, as mentioned, the growth of members here and revenues over the last couple of months, it shows the various decreases in Germany, UK, and Spain. UK being the most affected country with a drop of approximately 50% here in terms of revenues, and 20% in terms of members. That's been followed by Spain with a drop of 43% in revenue and approximately 22% in members. Yeah, that is due that, as I said before, the lockdown period was the longest one in the UK, followed then by Spain and Germany with shortly above 60%. But more importantly, what we have seen is that the drop in terms of revenues is much harder. And why is that? That is also explained by the various membership models we see in those countries, especially in countries where we see short-term contracts, monthly contracts. And that's a majority in the UK, but also in Spain. We have seen a more significant drop in revenues than in members. We also have seen in Germany, for example, that a lot of memberships were, I would call it, frozen for the time. So clubs were not open, clubs were shut down, but we still have, or the operators still have cashed in revenues, and then obviously provide certain services to their members after the shutdown has been terminated and members were already or again possible to train out. From an accounting perspective, These are no revenues because obviously the services at that time when the revenues were accounted for were not given, so therefore there needs to be a certain deferral in the balance sheet for those revenues, and therefore it also explains why we have differences here in the membership drop and in the revenue drop. So let us come to the top operators and how the top operators have dealt with the crisis, how they have been affected in terms of numbers and in terms of membership. So as you can see on this slide, again, it shows a very nice development over the last couple of years. So the last 4 years show a nice growth, and it also shows that the top operators here, so the top 10, have outperformed clearly the market. That means you have seen here 5% market growth in terms of members in the countries we have surveyed over the last years and included in our report. And the top operators have outperformed the market by more than 9%, leading to a 14% growth. That has been obviously attributed to organic, but also inorganic growth. We come to inorganic growth when we discuss the M&A transactions. And interestingly enough, this trend can also be seen now in the pandemic, meaning that the market has lost more members, as you can see on the far right, 15%, than the top operators, 6%. Yeah? This is partly explained by M&A transactions the operators have done, even in the pandemic, following a consolidation trend, which we have seen over the last couple of years anyway. But it's also attributable to the fact that operators have gone into offering of digital training offerings, etc., and could maintain at least a certain communication to clients and maintain a higher membership and less attrition levels than the overall market. So those are the numbers on the members. On the next slide, we're going to see how that leads into revenues. And you can see here actually the same effects. Market grow by 2% over the last couple of years, whereas those members grew by 5%. Not as much as members outperforming, and that's why obviously we have a lot of discount operators which a lower average membership fee in the market, and therefore the outperformance by revenues was less than by members, but it's still seen here. And the same effect is true for the revenues. So top 10 operators only, if we can say only, it's still a significant decrease, had a loss of 25% in terms of revenues, whereas the overall market lost a third, lost 33%. And if we look at the operators here, you will see that the decline is varying between 48% with Virgin Active and even a growth at Pure Gym or Nordic Wellness. So Pure Gym obviously is affected by the acquisition of Fitness World. That were 240 clubs, approximately 600,000 members and 200 million in revenue. So obviously that is something which we need to take into consideration here. Like for like, they would have not grown, but Virgin Active on the other end, mainly UK operator, with some clubs in Italy, which Italy was also severely affected. You can see the very steep decline of revenues here. So broad range how operators have reacted from the crisis. As I mentioned, consolidation was always a play in the industry over the last couple of years. We have seen a continuous trend of M&A transactions with strategic investors, with private equity, with family offices on both sides. And we also have seen a considerable amount of M&A transactions in this year, even under the pandemic. And I will give you an overview here how these transactions have been triggered on the sell side and on the buy side. So we have seen founders and private investors selling their businesses at the most, so a transaction caused by that. Financial investors, mainly private equity, who have exited their business even in the crisis 4 times, and strategic investors who have exited their business. And the main acquirer of those business have been strategic investors, really clearly showing the trend of market consolidation, not only caused by the pandemic, but by the overall market trend in order to building bigger groups, in order to maintain an international expansion. But also we see still quite some interest from institutional investors, like, for example, private equity in this market, because, and that we're going to come to when we discuss the outlook, most of the people think that this is a maintainable growth in the industry, and that these trends after the pandemic has been terminated, or the effects have been terminated and dealt with, that the trend will continue. So we have some companies, as you might recall from former presentations, which are publicly listed, and we have showcased here a few of them. And what you see on the slide, obviously, is the huge drop at the beginning of the crisis in March. And as a reference, we have also put the Stocks Europe index to it. That's the red line, so that you can see that also obviously other companies have reacted to these trends, whereas the companies here showcased, like Arctic Group, Technogym, SATS, Basic Fit, and the Gym Group, have overreacted to this trend compared to the stocks, which is obviously related to their business model and to the related shutdowns of the clubs. But they have returned quite well. And if you look at the companies which we have indexed at their stock listing, stock price May 19, you see that they have returned back, and that's the positive news. And especially the Gym Group, Basic Fit, and the SATS Group, and somewhat of Technogym, have really returned back to normal or even above normal. On the next slide, something which here indicates how, let's call it digital fitness provider like Peloton have developed in terms of their share price since the pandemic happened. So as you might know, Peloton went public in September 2019, and the share price since then, and that's been shown by this slide, has been tripled. So we just looked up their market capitalization as of yesterday, and it was 27.4 billion euros. Just to get a comparison, I have selected 3 German companies which are more or less in the same range of market capitalization, just to give you an idea. That's been Continental, Delivery Hero, and E.ON, which is a huge utility company in Germany. Just that you get a sense for how this company is being valued at the moment, and how much investors think that the company will perform over the coming years, because obviously the share price is a reflection of the future development of the company and the estimates of the potential interest and the shareholders. The numbers Peloton have shown are also quite interesting. They closed their financial year in June, and the revenues Peloton is showing in that period have doubled and are now more than a billion in this period. So also a very interesting development in if you see that in comparison with the pandemic. And they are obviously one of the winners of this, if there are any, of the pandemic crisis, because they are offering fitness at home, and people could use that very well over time, and they had a huge demand for their products and have also extended their service range, coming from a pure spinning cycling product, going into yoga, going into strength training at home with the interactive, with their screen. And I think that was also a development which they have very quickly reacted to this, and also the acquisition of a leading fitness equipment supplier shows that a pure online player went now more into the other segments as well. So our ecosystem and trends, you might remember it a few years back when we have shown this ecosystem for the first time at the FIBO, and obviously that has not really changed, but there was some movements with respect to focus areas from one segment to the other. Obviously outdoor, when people were allowed to train outside, they felt more comfortable. They stayed outside. They were focusing on running. They were buying bicycles. They started to cycle. They did outside sports under advice or without. So that has been obviously pushed a lot. Indoor, very heavily hit, as we have seen before, by the operators, regardless which segment. Although one have to say that depending on the average age of the members, the return back to normal after the first wave or after the second wave was quicker if my average member was younger. So somebody from the industry told me the younger, the more fearless. I don't know if that's a good description, but that's obviously fact. And we have seen many premium operators operating with swimming pools, etc., who have been much harder hit by the crisis than the classical discount price for value operators. And as I can see also in many other businesses, the digital development with respect to new products, new services towards the customers, with respect to customer communication, but also with respect to operating a fitness club. So how much members can I leave in? How can I plan for training sessions? How can I do a proper communication with my members in terms of the pandemic and what it means in terms of hygiene concepts, etc., has been really accelerated. So that has become more and more important. It was always under discussion, and we always said, and every operator would agree to that digitalization was also very relevant and important before the pandemic hit us, but it has been accelerated a lot. And that's not only true for health and fitness operators, that's true for all industries and throughout. So therefore, we will give an overview and some insights how specific digital operators have done what they have developed, but also how corporations between the classical, I would call it then, brick and mortar health and fitness clubs plus digitalization have evolved over time. And last but not least, the suppliers. What we have seen here is as well a huge increase of their product revenues from home equipment. So I just got some numbers here. Technogym, 71% plus in home fitness in 2020 compared to 2019. Nautilus, 70% increase in sales. Johnson approximately doubled their revenues from home fitness. On the other side, obviously, they have the huge commercial business segment, which could not be fully compensated. That reminds me a bit to the operators who do have a multi-channel concept, who do have stores for shopping, but also provide an e-commerce experience for their customers. So we have seen a lot of those operators, being it in retail, being it in sports retail, being it in perfumeries, being it in fashion, that those operators who have invested into their own channels, into direct to consumer, into e-commerce over the last couple of years, have come smoother through the crisis than the others. And again, that happened here to the suppliers, whereas, as mentioned before, those sales of home fitness, etc., could not fully compensate for the loss in the business segments. So there have been new formats created. New formats, or have been already existing formats, but have been again accelerated. You see here the apps or the equipment which you can use at home and give some direct advice from your personal trainer, or get some simulations from an avatar, being Vana and Mirror. They're also cooperating with fitness studio operators. I mentioned Peloton as one example, and another example for cyclists, Swift. And you see then those who are really non-equipment based offerings like Adidas Running. YouTube has a lot of channels now for training out and freeletics. And then just a few, I know that most of the operators we have talked to and we have showcased are doing a lot in terms of digitalization, but you see 3 selections here with Basic Fit and FitX and Cyberobics from the Rainer Schaller group. And those are the reactions on the on the impossible training out in the clubs. So from our last survey, which I have presented in September already, you can also see the surveyed results from the operators on technological developments initiatives. So close to 70% have invested into their company app, obviously for the usage of the members. 80% have invested into videos with exercise instructions, etc. 90% have created digital classes, either live or streaming, which is then available for the members. And 80% also have gone for digital registration for a club visit, which is obviously not as of importance if the clubs are not open. But again, it helps a lot with respect to the process of joining a new member, of having the registration done, of putting the member in the membership system, etc. That's all now been electronic, and I can remember some years back where there were some cards still in the clubs, and that's all now been digital and automatic. If we look on the 3 concepts, so hardware providers B2C, so direct contact and direct consumer, then the software, and then software B2B. And we see the fundings those operators have received from the market, being investments from family offices, investments from institutional investors. So that's pre-IPO at Peloton, pre-September 19. They have received approximately 1 billion already for building their business case, for investments they have made. Tonal, another hardware provider, got 200 million. Swift, there was lately a funding round led by KKR, a very known American private equity house. They got more than 600 million in terms of funding. Calm 220 and Strava 152. And on software, the same B2B, so you might come across those providers if you're an operator. So MindBody received 115 and Glowfox 23. If we look at the fitness intermediaries in Europe, we have separated those into business to consumer, business to consumer and business to business and business to business. And you can see here a list of those operators which are active in your markets, and they have also reacted to it because their offering they had, being the access to fitness club, has changed as well. And therefore they have also created formats. They have also created digital formats for their members in order to work out. And there's also likewise in the brick and mortar studios, there's also a consolidation tendency here. So just one example, that Urban Sports Clubs acquired OneFit back in 2019. So we also see a consolidation in that segment being relevant and obviously being important to the members, because the bigger players can provide more services and do have more financial capabilities in order to come up with new products. As I mentioned, outlook. So we have not, unfortunately or fortunately, the glass bowl. So we can't tell you exactly what's going to happen in 2 years. When I was standing in front of you virtually in September, when the second wave was not really there, we were all thinking, hoping that the pandemic is over, that all the effects are manageable, that vaccination and testing will provide for efficient security to return to a normal life. We all have been seeing that, or we all have been proven wrong. There was the second wave and even the third wave. And with vaccinations now really speeding up, people are getting routines, testing before having dinner with people, etc., etc. People are getting used to that, but we don't know, and hopefully that's not the case if there's going to be a fourth wave. So what we have assumed here again is that this will not be the case, and the situation will be manageable, and that we have the chance under very specific hygiene concept to reopen the clubs, and that we got back, let's call it, to normal life very soon. And therefore I would like to discuss some implications and takeaways from the pandemic before we really come to an outlook. So we have seen a lot of government support in the various countries, and that helped a lot the operators. Although it was a cold start, it needed some time to apply for these subsidies and then to get the money, etc., etc. But we have seen a lot of initiatives, and that helped a lot that those operators who are not as financially liquid or doesn't have the access to the financial markets, like public listed companies or like private equity owned companies, being PureGym or being at BasicFit, they didn't have the chance to really get this financial support, and therefore the government took over, and I think that was helping a lot. And it was also helpful that the industry, and that's what I mentioned in September already, got together as one group and lobbied the positive impact this training has, yeah, and that the negative effects, which have been partly covered by the press and by the media, are not as severe as stated. And therefore they also put together some facts which helped, I think, what also David said, that you get together as an industry and get the right lobbyism and make sure that everybody understands that working out is positive for the health of the people, and that all these negative factors or potential negative factors are manageable under stringent hygiene concept. So what we also have seen, as I said previously, is that obviously the flexibility which have been mentioned by operators in the past to be customer friendly, monthly contracts or freeze of contracts, etc., have hit the industry and have hit the operators who had the majority of short-term contracts, which have been partly triggered also by the countries where they're different. So that is something which also needs to be considered going forward, how the industry will deal with that, more into the direction, more flexibility, or more into the direction of having more support from the members by long-term contracts. The awareness for hygienic measures obviously has been high over the last couple of months, but we think it's going to remain high, and that would also mean further measures within the clubs that will have further cost for the operators, but it will be very important to maintain this high quality and high hygiene standards in the clubs, because then only you can prove that you as an industry have a positive impact on the health, and obviously a better health is better for the immune system and therefore for dealing with this pandemic, with this virus, or with another one. Products and services related to home fitness will remain relevant. We will discuss if that's going to be increased, or if we think that we're going to come back to the status before the pandemic. We also have some representative results brought here with us so that you can have a look. And as I said, consolidation will remain. It will probably be accelerated because of a few operators not being financially in the position to maintain their business. So there will be operators who will be in the position to consolidate the market and to appreciate that those operators are not going to be continued. Digitalization, as mentioned, it's in all your business processes. It's not only in terms of members, it's not only in terms of communication, it's also within your business processes, which you have to deal with in the next couple of years. And as I said, but I think you made some first very good steps, and the industry got together, and you have to articulate the relevance, the positive relevance for the industry, for the well-being of people and the social life. As I said, how will this continue after the pandemic? So we as Deloitte have done a representative study. We have asked more than 10,000 people in 20 European countries in February, March, so it's not that long time ago. What was your, are you in a fitness club? Are you a member of a fitness club? And we asked them before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and after the pandemic. And that's going to be shown by the left graph here. And you see that we anticipate, or the surveyed people anticipate, to become again a member if they have ceased their membership or have stopped their membership or terminate their membership during the pandemic. Even a higher share, a slightly higher share of 34% is readily is thinking about returning into a membership after the pandemic. Same question we have asked 8,500 people what they have done online before, during, and after, and what they anticipate to do online in terms of fitness after the pandemic crisis. And you see there is no significant increase compared to before the pandemic, even a little bit less, meaning 24% will have a continuous online usage of fitness than 25% before the pandemic. And that shows to us that there is a huge desire to return back to the clubs, to return back to social life, to return back to their used equipment, which is obviously not as good at home than it is in the clubs. 3 examples we have brought with us just to underline these questions we had here, and also some interviews I had over the last couple of days with operators we know well, underlines this. So on the far left you can see the gym group, and here you can see the drop in membership comparing end of December 2019 than February 21, and actually the increase of more than 33% up until end of May. So that really shows the desire of the members of returning back to the club, and showing how the numbers evolve when the clubs are again opened and people are able to train out. Basic Fit, same development, a bit different numbers here. So that shows the number of joiners, and we have got these numbers. What was the level in May 19 as one indication, so obviously before Corona. And then we have just shown here the numbers between mid of May and beginning of June. And that shows that the number of joiners have tripled in that period. So again, underlying the same here, what the gym group is saying. And the same with respect then to actual visits in the club. The number on the far right from Pure Gym, you can see here the level of visits after reopening in the clubs is nearly at the level before the pandemic. So it's 97%. So again, underlines what some representative surveys indicates, means that people would like to return to the clubs, people would like to train out, would meet their peers, would have their training groups again, but might also have some digital complementary training at home. So therefore a combination of the two, and an offering of the operators of the two, I think would be really a plus. As mentioned, the slogan was 100 million by 2030. We promoted that every year because we did the calculations, we did the math. We are accountants. I'm personally an accountant, so I could follow those numbers based on historical developments, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit us. You have seen the numbers, you have seen the drop, and again we have done some qualitative thinking, and then obviously that leads to numbers. And we want to give you 10 reasons why we think that 100 million by 2030 is still achievable. So those are the qualitative numbers. So we do see still a lot of penetration rate potential in various countries where we don't have these penetration rates like in other countries. Yeah, and those are big countries. Those are Turkey, those are Russia, those are others, which are under average compared to EU average. So there will be, in the next years, investments. There will be more clubs and obviously more members. Fitness as health prevention. I said that now many times. That's part of the mission of the overall industry, to really communicate that and help people to understand if they are in a healthier position, they are in a better position to fight against any virus. It doesn't have to be necessarily Corona. We've seen still, and we discussed that in September as well, we see a lot of investments from the big players, big tech companies. All of you know them, Apple, Google. So they're investing. And they're investing mainly into customer data. So they're providing fitness gadgets, fitness wearables, and also programs to their members, to their customers, and create a membership base. And obviously want to commercialize within the data protection rules each country has. They want to commercialize the customer data. So it's very important. And if you think as an operator about this, it's also very important that the understanding of your members, not only by communication, but also by understanding the fitness behavior, the training behavior of your members, the joining behavior, etc., is clearer, is more structured, and is digitalized. Fitness becomes more affordable. That's still a trend which we have seen over the last couple of years with the emergence, with the growth of the discount operators. So discount, which was regarded many years back as being not as a good product, it's a great product. So if you go to discount operators in their clubs, you would not see much of a difference to many other operators, and therefore it is good for the consumers, it's good for the members. Fitness becomes more and more affordable. And it's coming closer to the consumers. So it's not only that you open more clubs, that the clubs are becoming more professional, it's also, as I said before, the digitalization. So you might have a club environment in a virtual world, you might join your fitness operator on YouTube or on streaming platforms, etc. And that brings obviously a higher identification with the brand, and you can train out whenever and wherever you are. Corporate wellness programs will also be very important. We just take Deloitte as an example, with approximately 10,000 people in Germany. Most of the people are at the moment working from home office. Yeah? But we make the difference of being an employer of purpose, a good employer, of building teams. So there are hardly people working alone. We most of the time work in teams together, and you would like to do that in a physical environment. You would like to meet people when you are safe, obviously, and when the hygiene measures are correct. But you want to return back to life. And if you as an employer want to also give something back to your employees, corporate wellness programs and corporate fitness programs are very important. I mentioned already striving for improved customer service and experiences by digitalization, and we still see potential for increasing investments in qualified staff, because if we have the right people in the club servicing the members, then obviously it's good and it's long term. By that, and doing the calculation and doing the assumption that by the end of the next year we are back in the growth phase, and assuming a component average growth of what we have seen over the last couple of years before the pandemic hit us, we do think that 100 million by 2030 is still achievable. So now I welcome Herman back, and we keep our distance here, and are very happy to take your questions or have some discussions between us, Herman.
Well, first of all, if I look at the numbers in Europe and compare what has been published on the US, we see a lot less drop in number of clubs in Europe compared to the US, where the drop was 17%. We show 1.5% drop in number of clubs. Revenues, we show about a third drop. US shows over 50% in drop in revenues. How would you explain those differences?
Yeah. So I think that the main factors for this are, first of all, how long have the clubs been shut down? So, and we have seen a lot of states in the US which have shut down the clubs a significant time. So therefore that's the first factor. So as we have shown on the table, what was the effect in terms of shutdown of the clubs by not being able to train out? That's the first effect. The second effect is what's the membership construction, what is the membership contract? And it has been always been promoted that monthly membership contracts provide a lot of flexibility for the members, and therefore also joining a fitness club becomes less of a burden for those, rather than having a yearly membership contract. But on the other side, we also see flexibility means in a downturn that people are flexible to terminate their contracts, and that also doesn't give a lot of security for the fitness operators. And these two effects, with then again, what's the terms of urbanization in the various countries, and what was the, let's say, overall coverage from the media as well on how safe is it to train out in a fitness club. All these mixture together I think, led to the fact that the US was doing comparatively worse compared to many European countries. But you have seen in Europe, there has also been a lot of differences, being UK leading that with Sweden opened their clubs the full year. So there's also no one country which is representative for Europe.
Yeah, and within the countries you will see differences between certain types of operators
and
as
even
well.
worse. And then within the countries, like even in Germany or in Italy, then in the federal states or the communities, they have different rules then. And I think that's also part of the challenge for the government, is to provide for higher transparency for the population, what you can do and what you can't do. That was not always easy to understand which clubs now open, under which concept, and what you can do, etc., etc.
Yeah. No, I think if you look at the some companies use the Corona period and the lockdown to do things within their clubs, to upgrade their clubs, to do refurbishment, and also to look at their strategy. Can you give some examples of some operators that you know and you've seen that have done that exactly in the past 12 months?
Yeah, I as I mentioned here, I've just picked 3 of them. For example, one major operator in Germany, FIDX, they have just let's say, started with virtual training rooms and even did a weekend with a virtual training session which you can then join, and it was then streamed. So really provide a digital offering and build a community around that, because it's all about community building, like in the clubs. As you mentioned, and as I said before, Basic Fit, and you know them quite well, as you have, I think you're on the supervisory board there, so you know them quite well. They invested into artificial intelligence, but they also took the opportunity to raise capital. So René was as CEO, he was in the position of convincing the markets that the Basic Fit business model is a long-term one, and although it's been hit severely by the crisis, it will remain, and it will be positive and successful after the pandemic. So there are a lot of good examples. Also with respect to the operating systems the operators have. Some did, as I said, with PureGym, they did acquisitions. There were more acquisitions they have done, especially in the first months when the pandemic was not there, but it returned back also in the autumn months, where there were another acquisitions. So inorganic growth, digitalization, artificial intelligence, virtual classes. So there are many examples out there, and that reminds me to somebody who said, "Never waste a good crisis." Yeah, a famous man, and that's what that was their slogan.
Yeah. No, and I think we will see, of course, a shakeout. You know, I started my question with the big difference in Europe, where only 1.5% of the clubs closed down. In America, 17%. There, the government didn't support the industry as well as in Europe it was done. And I think if we look at what's going to happen, of course, now all the clubs are open again, pretty much in Europe. The whole map is green in terms of clubs are open. That people will start making revenues again, and companies will be getting, hopefully, back soon in a positive cash flow, which will be able to invest again, to buy new equipment, to invest in digital systems, and to improve their customer experience. So I think, as you said in your answer to the question, 100 million members by 2030, is that still a realistic goal? I'm 100% convinced that it is a realistic goal and that we will get there. If I listen to, and you alluded to that, to the rebound of the business, you know, you showed numbers from Basic Fit and from PureGym. A lot of others don't publish their numbers, but I hear also that clubs are members who cancelled are coming back, are re-engaging with their membership, as well as new people jumping on the bandwagon and joining fitness clubs because they see that exercise is good and they need to work on their immune system. So I think it's a very positive development. Let me ask you another question. In terms of the differences in market decline by market, could you elaborate a little bit on that? You alluded already on that. Big differences between markets and key operators. Could you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. So I think also for those who had purchased the report or are going to purchase the report, you will see in the country profiles the rate of consolidation in the respective countries. And I will see, if you just take, well, there are small countries, but if you just take Belgium or the Netherlands, which are strongly consolidated, and you see a few operators really dominating the market. Same true for Germany, but also for the UK. So you would see a certain correlation between the maturity of the market and the consolidation. And then you see other markets like, for example, Italy, where let's say the biggest operators are not be amongst the top 5 or even the top 10 in those other countries in terms of members and in terms of clubs. And that comes then, what I said before, those are not operators only operating in one country, but mostly being internationally, and they have the financial strengths, they have the management capabilities, they have the professionalism in the management team to really react to those. And then the last point is how the public and how the government supports the operators in the respective countries. And if you just say then Italy, I think they closed down the clubs in late February already, and they have been heavily hit, and you are an individual operator, family-owned business. It's very hard if you haven't built much of a reserve over the last couple of years to survive this war.
Yeah, and I think there was also a lot of new club openings in 2020 and 2019 and coming into 2020, particularly if you look at the franchise concepts, Anytime Fitness, Orange Theory Fitness. There was a lot of franchise concepts opening new clubs. And if you're a young entrepreneur with no fat on the bones, you know, it's going to be very hard if all your revenues dry up. Although in some countries, and I think Germany in particular, because of the contract system, the clubs continued to bill to the members, right, when the clubs were closed. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's right. They still, many of them cashed in the money, and obviously then for profit and loss and for balance sheet reasons, they had to defer those revenues because there were no services compared to those, and that's why they need to account for, we call it deferred revenues, deferred income here, and that will lead obviously to an effect in this year. And I would say that the challenge in 2021, although all these positive developments now with rejoining new members, etc., from a financial perspective will even be harder than 2020, especially for the German operators, because as you said rightly, most of them were able to still cash in the membership fees, one, and they were able to have new members in January, February last year when Corona was not there already, but obviously no clubs were open in January, February, and we all know that those are the most, and December, most relevant month for new joiners, and they're going to be hit by that 1 year than the following, and therefore I think this year will even be more challenging than the last year from a financial perspective.
I have a question here from Romain Kunz. Have you monitored precisely this pure digital market of APP and stream? These people will never go to a gym. I'm not sure I understand totally the question, but I think Romain is asking, have you looked at the pure digital market, and people who do pure digital, will they go back to the gym? I think that's what the question boils down to.
So on the first part of the question, we don't have, well, I don't have them readily available. I think that one of my colleagues in the world of Deloitte may have looked at it. So if you send me an email, I can find out if we have some statistics on that. I don't have them handy. But on the second question, and that's also been, I think, shown by the people we have surveyed, so I think that people, there are two groups of people who worked out online. The one group is they just did it online. They don't have a brick and mortar membership, and the others did it as a complementary. And I think that even those who have been purely digital, by new offerings and by professionalism in the industry, will move at a certain point of time into a brick and mortar studio, because most of them are missing something, and therefore I think there are potential joiners for the studios. which have been, by the way, shown by, just take the pure digital operators like, for example, Amazon. Yeah, they have now also opened brick and mortar food grocery stores, yeah, to allow consumers to buy not online but stationary. Yeah. So there's also a move from pure digital players into the more brick and mortar business concepts.
I think if I comment on that, in talking to operators, what they've told me, during the lockdown when the clubs were closed, people were using the online, the video on demand, the streamed services. But as soon as the clubs reopen, people drop using that and they come back to the club.
Yeah.
But of course, there is a number of people, and we don't have the research, I think, to prove that only do digital, and will they continue to do digital go forward? And the talk about this hybrid model, yeah, you have the brick and mortar clubs and as well the hybrid, or the online services, that people will do both. And people are really looking forward to meeting people again, to be buddy-buddy doing exercise in the club, rather than sitting at home in front of your iPad or your TV screen to do your exercise. Here's a question from Florian Cartu. What's your outlook on fitness events? Will we return to the normal, or will hybrid events be the norm? We should ask the FIBO team that, but they're not in this discussion. Do you have an opinion about that?
Well, I mean, we are just discussing also as Deloitte when is a good time to restart with our conferences, with our meetings, and I think there is a rebounds already shown. For example, we have been represented at the Deutsche Tag der Industrie, which have been visited by our Chancellor and CEOs of many DAX companies over the last couple of years. So that is something I think we reconsider. The big trade shows with the big mass events, I would say probably not this year, but I'm not a trade exhibitor, a specialist, but that would just my personal guess, because you can't really have the hygienic measures there readily in place, which people would expect.
My comment to that would be that, of course, the next big event will be FIBO and will be EHFF on November 3rd. The registrations are streaming in, so I think it will be a very successful event. Probably not as big as it was 2 years ago, but I think people want to meet people. People want to kick the tires of equipment on a trade show, and people want to compare notes with each other on what are the trends, what's going on. There's a lot of activities taking place on that November week, November 3rd week here in Cologne. So I think it will come back, but it will be a little slower and all. I think next year, April, when FIBO takes place, it will be, in my view, again, a normal FIBO, and also people from Asia and from the United States will be traveling more internationally and will be coming again to our events. Let me ask you another question. When do you think Europe as a whole, maybe tagging on to that, or a certain individual countries will get back to the pre-COVID levels of membership? You know, when do you think we'll be back to that?
I think I gave a kind of indication that by end of next year, beginning of 23, we are talking numbers like we had in 2019, and then obviously with the continuous growth which we have seen over the last couple of years, evidenced 5-6% in terms of members, will continue. Is there a boost? Is there something which will explode when everything will open again? I don't know, but I think that all the efforts around digitalization on additional services, additional offerings, will help at least to achieve that growth which we have seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah. If we look at the crisis, which is now sort of almost behind us, we see consumer spending going up. The European Union has predicted economic growth to be higher for this calendar year than they previously predicted. If you look at the type of consumers that may be most affected go forward, would you have any idea on what kind of consumers will be coming back more quickly and which will be more hesitant to come back to our industry?
Yeah. So I mean, there are various motivations for membership in a fitness club, obviously. As I said, and that's been proven by fact, that the younger the member is, the more, and that's not my claim, but it was said by somebody of the operators, the more fearless they are. And therefore, obviously, if you look through the various operators who have different offerings and have different average ages of members, those who are attracting more the younger ones obviously will favor more the return. Not saying that if there are more premium operators that they will have mid to long-term difficulties, but I think that the return will be slower because also people who are more who are older tend to have a more cautious treatment of getting into groups again, of training out, and then just think about all the wet facilities in premium operators. People tend not to want to swim with others if there is still a likelihood or a chance to be infected.
Yeah. Is there a silver lining to this cloud? Do you think that in some ways this was a blessing in disguise to have this period? It's hard to say that, but so many people died. But of course, from a business point of view, you said before, you know, people had to relook at their business model and how they were running their operation, look at their costs, look at their cash flow, look at their way of financing the business. What sort of positive points can we take out of this go forward? Learnings. Yeah,
as you said, with all the negatives around it, it's hard always to look at the positive things, but the glass should be half full then rather than half empty. And I think the positive effects were really that those operators who will continue successfully have really, I wouldn't say changed, but I would say adjusted their business model. They have thought about really about communication, about their service offering, but also about their internal processes. And they have thought about their financing position. There were many, I wouldn't call it positive effects, it's just rather challenging their own business model and don't be in the comfort zone. Because I just compare with the peloton, yeah, the Tour de France is going to start soon, and as you know, I'm very much interested in cycling. And if you are just rolling in the peloton and you have a lot of tailwind, it's not hard for you, you're just rolling there. And obviously if it goes up the mountain and you got some headwind, then you have to rethink what you can do. And I think that's forced now a lot of operators to rethink about their positioning and to create really new opportunities for their members for training, for services in a new environment after Corona.
Yeah. I see here it's a statement rather than a question from Peter Croft. I'll read it out. You know, I haven't been able to think about it, but you can think about it while I read it out. I would really like to see an evaluation of the use of digital at an operator level, asking questions like how many use online sales, how many have an app, how many offer digital experiences in the club and out of the club, and how many access their data they use to produce a strategy. Maybe this is in the longer report.
Yeah, we give further examples, obviously, of those things individually, and I've given some from other operators. We haven't surveyed that in detail. Obviously, there is a kind of sensitivity to it as well from the operator side, because we could only, I guess, if we would do so, publish those results in an anonymous way, meaning we can't point to the single operator what he's doing. Because if I were the operator, I would also not be willing to give all my details around my digital strategy away and make it transparent. But that's a good statement from Peter, so maybe something we can evaluate and find out if we can speak on an anonymous basis with the 15 or 20 top operators and get their thoughts about that.
Yeah. My answer to the question, or rather the statement, would be that that was not the scope of this report. The scope of this report is to make an assessment of the size of the market, number of members, number of clubs, evolution of the key operators give some indication on the ecosystem. But if we would like to do what Peter is suggesting here, we would need a little bit different budget in order to get that information. And as you say, it is already sometimes getting blood out of a stone to get the information that we're gathering, because this industry is not famous for being very forthcoming with information. And particularly in a year when most people have to report declines in revenues and declines in number of members, they're not so happy to share that not so positive information. And I think that is understandable, but on the other hand, we need to face the brutal facts and be aware of what the drop is and then draw some conclusions from that.
But I mean, I've learned the best communication is your own communication.
Yeah.
So if you can manage your own communication, obviously that's the best. And it will come out that, and it's clear to everybody that the industry is facing difficulties. But if you communicate those numbers and, for example, communicate that the bigger operators are doing better than the overall market, and maybe even better than what other stakeholders who are not so familiar with this market, like banks, lending institutions, etc., are thinking, because they just take some statistics from, for example, just the tourism industry and just adapt that to the fitness industry, and then you would look much worse than you are. So I think this communication is very important, and I can just encourage here all the operators to support this initiative by EuropeActive, because it's key to the government, to the public, to communicate those numbers, and it's your own communication. It's not the communication the market is doing for you. And as you said, blood out of a stone, absolutely, I can see that. And again, that's why I start with a thank to my team, because that's an effort of the team and together with you and all the contacts EuropeActive has. So that is hard work.
Yeah.
This is hard work, it's not fun. It's fun to stand here and present the results. So I'm the fun guy now because I've done the hard work all the years.
Yeah, you can.
But
you
it
can
is
take
hard
the spotlight
work. So
and the grunting and the grinding of the detail has happened already. And I think also further to the question by Peter Croft, I know EuropeActive is working on another project, which is not the scope of this report, but to do a further analysis on the digital side of the industry and to give more insight into that part of the ecosystem. So I think that will be happening, and I think Peter Croft is even involved in that. Peter Croft says, as always, a great report and highly valuable. Maybe we could encourage the industry to support further research that helps us transform faster. Great job, thank you. Well, that's, I think, what I earlier said. Thank you, Peter, for your positive comments. We're getting close to our drop dead time. Before I ask another question to Karsten, I think it's important to tell you that the report is available. You should have all received an email on the code to use to get a discount on the report. I think there may be a slide coming after we're done speaking here also with that information, so watch out for that on your screen on your Zoom. The report is available in digital form as well as in printed form. Let me just look here. I had some questions prepared just in case we didn't have enough questions coming in. In terms of the, if you would have to summarize what will never be the same again, you know, after Corona, what has changed for good? What would your answer to that question be?
Yeah, if it's all changed over time, I think it will all change, but probably not overnight. We have seen so many manual processes, so many disconnects between the systems within a fitness club, being at the membership system, being at the accounting system, etc., and that was not even really 100% efficient in terms of social media, in terms of providing streaming channels, etc. I think that will change, that all these manual processes which have been involved will be, if they have not been terminated yet, they will be terminated soon for those who will survive this. I think also the sense of hygiene in the clubs will change, and the sense for people. So it's also very important to maintain those measures. Not meaning that you need to train out with a mask or something, but really the overall appearance of the club. So therefore another positive thing for the major operators who had that in mind all the years or have that in mind. So I think those are two things. And again, the digital offering. So I don't think that in the long term, one operator who intends to lead the market in its countries cannot have a proper digital offering and a proper digital membership community. Because that's also very important that we maintain the social life in the fitness club. It's such a huge differentiator. You can maintain that to a certain extent as well as a virtual community, and those are things people should consider.
I see time's up. Thank you very much, Karsten.
Herman, pleasure.
We will continue the good work, and thank you all for viewing into this webinar. Again, look on your screen for the code to order the report, and we look forward to seeing you on the 3rd of November in Cologne for the EHFF, and then for the FIBO the days following.
Organizations with more gender diversity are more productive. That's what several studies say. And still, females only represent 20% of the C-suite level positions. Why is that? What are the reasons? And how can we change this situation? This is the question that we will discuss today. That being said, welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Maike Kumstel, and I will be your moderator for today's session, Shattering the Glass Ceiling. In the next hour, we will focus on the current situation of gender diversity in the fitness industry, and we will analyze the reasons and how the gender distribution actually looks like. We will also come up with actionable solutions that everyone can actually use and implement in order to get more female leaders into C-suite positions. Okay, let's get started. But you know what? As you heard before, the impact of females in your business is immense, not only when it comes to productivity and profitability, but also innovation and employee retention. So this is really a session that concerns everybody and your business's results. Okay, before we dive into the discussion, I really want to introduce these lovely ladies to you that are all very, very well known and just awesome in the industry. They represent the female leaders in our industry. I will introduce each one of them, and I also would like to get the question answered from you. What would you like for women to be the reality in 5 years? Let's get started with Susanne de Schepper. Susanne is the Operations Director, France, for Basic Fit, Europe's largest value for money fitness chain. She has more than 15 years of experience in the industry and went through all the positions you can imagine there are at Basic Fit. And now she actually is an executive. Thank you so much for being here, Susanne.
Thank you for inviting me, Maike. Love to be here.
Awesome. So what do you want for women to be the reality in 5 years?
What I want to be the reality for women in our industry is that they feel encouraged, empowered, and supported to chase after their dreams, chase after what they want to accomplish in our industry, if it's a C-suite, if it's just chasing your dreams, and that the industry and we as leaders, female, male, everybody, supports and encourages that.
Awesome, perfect, thank you so much. So the next one we have here in the studio is Barbara Klein. Barbara is the CEO of FLEXI-SPORTS, has been a training director of personal training and fitness for 30 years, and is the inventor of the FLEXI bar, the swinging bar, the world market leader of swinging bars. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here, Maike.
So what would you like to be the reality for our female leaders?
I think female leaders really should dare being mom, being strong, sharing knowledge, don't go only on the diversity. I think we are strong enough to open the door for, as Susanne said, male, female, young, seniors. I also, as an entrepreneur, I love to invite and hire even women 60 plus because they have the experience. It's not all about the young ones, it's all about the mix it up and make us strong ones.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Next we have Jennifer. Jennifer Halsall de Witt is the Chief Operating Officer for the Women in Fitness Association and a EuropeActive board member. She is the co-creator of the WIFA Lead, the Leadership Through Elevation, Awareness and Discovery program, and a Zen workgroup member for the Netherlands Health and Safety Standard. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Maike.
So what is your position statement, or what do you think should be the reality in 5 years?
Well, as I look at our sector, I'm missing some female participants in the C-suite. I would like to see a much more balanced representation of women in senior leadership roles. And I would like us to be able to have much more comfortable, much more frequent conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion for our sector, because I believe that's going to bring us forward collectively.
Awesome, thank you so much. And then we have Emma on the screen joining us from Munich. Hi, Emma. Can you hear me? Perfect. Emma Lehner has been in the fitness industry for over 20 years and was voted one of the 100 most influential women in franchising. She is the CEO and founder of the fitness franchise Bodystreet and has lots of experience in leadership within the company that is the global leader in EMS training. Thank you so much for joining us, Emma.
Nice to be here, and thank you for this opportunity.
Awesome. So what is your vision of females in the fitness industry in the next 5 years?
Yes, for me, I just have been, what I've been doing in the past in order to be successful. This is what I would tell the other women to encourage them. I've been doing kind of research and looking, I was thinking like there is something more to do as a woman, you know. So I was looking how are other women doing who are very, very successful in politicians or as CEO in different companies or a founder of different companies. And I saw that they all have one thing which they all have together, which was that they don't see the glass in the ceiling. So they just focus what they want and they concentrate with this purpose. It doesn't matter what. Until they have reached their goals. So this is what I would give as an advice for the future in order to have more leaders, women in different positions. Yes.
Awesome, perfect. And you being a woman, and I'm just going to dive right into the conversation since we are already talking to you, Emma, right now. So I feel like the topic of diversity and inclusion, you know, definitely has been getting more and more attention in society lately. And also when we look at the percentage of female leaders in the industry in general, because there actually is no numbers for the fitness industry specifically, the numbers slightly increased between 2017 and 2019 from 17 to 21%. So I was wondering, how would you describe the status of, you know, diversity, especially in the fitness industry? What is your experience? How would you describe it?
Yes, I think most important thing is this diversity is very important because the more people are coming together, either from different nationality and culture, and also the gender, you know, if there's men and women together, they could cooperate to develop something big, to make a huge impact. I think this is very important, the combination, because everybody is bringing his value. We can always learn from each other. And there's also other extra values, like maybe balance. Yeah, maybe others are bringing more balance. Women, most of the time, they tend to bring the balance. So if there is men and women who are all interested to move forward, yeah, so they can bring their values together in order to make the company successful and this can push also the woman to go forward. And I think that most important thing is that we women, we shouldn't go like, we should just forget the past about it's a man's world, and we think that maybe only the men should lead. We should just combine together, and we shouldn't go like, I'm better, or yes, I can lead better, something like that, but we should just go for the value which you have. A woman have other values, and man has got another values. For example, just to make it more clear, I think that women are leading completely different. Women are leading more with influence. They influence people. And men, they tend to lead more with dominion, with their positions. They just want to hold the position. So these are two different kinds of leaderships, but both of them are very, very efficient and have a very good value, and also can both of this kind of leadership can push the company in a really positive development. And then if the diversity is going with other people also from different cultures, well, like I said before, this can bring even more value because you can learn from each other and then have a big impact. This cooperation, I think that's the best, yes.
Perfect, awesome. So you are an entrepreneur and you have your own business in Germany. So now I would like to have a different opinion, maybe from somebody who works for a big company in France and used to be in the Netherlands. So Susanne, what is your opinion on the status in the fitness industry?
Yeah, I think I can add a little bit to what Nema is saying, is that it's about putting people in their strength. It's about differences, it's about embracing differences and using them to the utmost. And everybody, female, male, we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and it's about discussing them and bringing them to the table and moving forward together by using our strengths, but not focusing on it's a female or it's a male, but within a whole company, what are people's strengths and how can we use them to the best? And I think females bring different things, males bring different things, and use them to make our industry or our companies move forward.
Awesome. Barbara, do you think there is some are we moving in the right direction? Do you think there is some improvement when it comes to diversity and inclusivity in the fitness industry?
Yes, I think right now everybody's talking about diversity, and I think it's the time and it's nice. But I agree, for example, also Susanna, that it's not about male and female, it's more how can I support the females in being in the pot of getting strong in a career, because quite often we are limited being a woman, having children, taking care, being the organizer, the chauffeur, the cook, the management. And besides this, there is no chance in a job where I have to be 40 to 60 hours per week. So if we get the support of education, of kindergarten, of companies where kids are raised aside, then the strong women have more the option to dive into the career. And then we don't have to talk all the time about the diversity. In gender-wise, okay, great. Especially in fitness, I think the platform for men, women, all kind of has ever been. This is why they feel so humbled on stage, because we gave them the stage. And I think anywhere the stage is made for women, for guys, for all kind of sexes, and that we are talking is great, and hopefully we are going into a right direction and don't have to talk all the time about this subject, because it's not worth talking about it as it should be normal.
Correct, perfect.
Yeah.
And I just saw that we have another panelist joining us. It's Erica. Welcome, Erica. I'm just going to quickly introduce you. Erica Alessandri is on the board of the family's business, Technogym, and she's very active with initiatives around sustainability and digital and a personalized wellness experience. Erica was also selected among the Young Global Leader of the World Economic Forum in 2021. Thank you so much for joining from Italy, Erica.
Thank you very much, and apologies for the delay. We had some technical issues.
No worries, no worries. What do you think, or where do you want women to be in 5 years' time? Is there anything like a vision or mission that you think should be the reality for women?
Yes, well, I think that in general, this does not apply only to the fitness industry, but overall as a cultural trend, it is very important. I don't have a vision in particular for women in 5 years, but I have a more long-term vision. I wish that there would be, as you were mentioning before, no need for this talk, but that we would have system in which since a very young age women are empowered and also are can evolve and have more how can I say have more, be educated to pursue their careers from a very young age. This has to be a cultural shift. Because, for example, in my experience, I've always been very driven and my family has always supported me, and I have a younger brother and there was never a difference between the two of us, and they've always let's say supported me to grow my leadership and really to study, and they kind of taught me not to believe in the myths that we have from a cultural standpoint. So I think that what we should really do is ourselves first, empower little girls from a very young age, and really shift also the cultural models that we have, for example, in homes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you.
Then I'm going to jump to Jennifer. Jennifer, we were just talking about, having a support system, basically. Is there other persons besides Erica was mentioning the family that you think, should be normal for every woman, like a support system? What kind of, I don't know, maybe a role model, maybe a mentor? Can you just, explain that a little bit more, what you think should be in place?
In terms of just mentorship in general for women, I that's where I'd like to dive in. I think just the ability, we have an ability as women to connect with each other, and I feel like I see that way more in social networking aspects, like personal networking, that way more so than I do in the professional world. I feel like there are a lot of women that I've spoken to over the years that seem to feel kind of alone and not really supported because they don't know how to build that professional network. But it's a superpower we already have, and it's just applying it in another domain. But we've talked about this a lot because, for the people who are listening, Maike and I met through a mentorship program. We were paired through the WIFA peer mentorship program, where there's no hierarchy. You just basically have a thought partner for 3 months, and that is just a wonderful example of how enriching the process has been for me, because we've created a leadership program together. After that, we've developed a beautiful friendship, but it's one example of how mentorship can change your life if you can really make time and priority for it. And I think to speak a little bit to Barbara's point about how it's so hard for many women who are mothers and or are in caregiving roles, who are by and large running their household. They're the COO, the CFO at home. Like how do you do it all? And I think that it's really easy to get the feeling of overwhelm and not feeling like you can raise your hand and ask for help, because there's so much that's going on all fronts of your life. And that is really where having mentors, having coaches, having a strong network of women in your professional life can help expand your horizons and your perspective, so that you understand you're not alone. There are hacks that you can work on and work with to make it easier, and it's okay to ask for help, because I think that's one of the things that I also constantly hear from a lot of women that I speak to, that they're afraid to ask for help. But I just like to throw this idea out into the universe today that most of us as women love to help others. So if you think about the joy you get from helping, think that when you ask for help, you're also creating joy for someone else that they can help you. So
beautiful. Thank you so much. And Susanne, you were talking about the support system earlier as well. And I know that, you know, you are not living the normal role. You don't have the typical roles in your family. It's very different at your family. So do you want to share how your family is?
Sure. A few years ago, I was asked by the board of Basic Fit if I was up to a challenge. Always up for a challenge. That meant that I was moving my whole family to France from the Netherlands. And that's not a decision you make on your own. I have a beautiful family. I'm married. I have 2 kids. So you discuss that. And if you make that decision on your own, and I have an amazing husband that is part of my support system, in which where I have an operations director's function at Basic Fit, and he is helping us run the family, being there for me to talk to, etc. So there's opportunities to set up your support system. For me, there's a lot within my husband, but there's others. Like Jennifer is saying, I was part of the WIFA lead program. I met an amazing lady, Tiffany, who is in the States, which I have calls with every week, discussing challenges, discussing small stuff, and creating your support team, like Jennifer said, by opening up the discussion, by having moments to share thoughts and to look in the mirror together and say, hey, how can we move this forward? And I think we can create that as women. I think we should enter also the men in the discussion. It's creating a support team. It's about opening up these discussions in more places than only here in a panel. It's kind of fun that we're only ladies in the panel. Maybe we should invite the guys to discuss with us and to have this discussion more often. Yeah.
I totally agree. Jen, you already mentioned that, you know, it's not always only about the external factors. Maybe it's also about the internal factors that women should ask more for help. Emma, do you have any experience or did you at some point realize that there is some internal factors that women naturally have or usually have that, you know, we should address and just encourage women to maybe work on that as well?
Yes, thank you. I totally agree what Jennifer was saying. That's really very important to have networking, to have somebody who is mentor and help in different situations. For example, I can bring also my own example. I studied physiotherapist. I came from Tanzania and I'm living now 40 years in Germany. But my target, because I was before a professional sportswoman, so this is how I came to Germany. But after finishing my career for professional sports, I did education for physiotherapists. And I've been working for a long time in the hospitals, taking care of patients. And then I started to have this kind of passion. Oh man, people are sick of these civilization diseases where you can do kind of a prevention. Why are we waiting until they are so sick? And I saw that there's no possibilities to get rid of that. So I thought maybe it's better to go out and help these people not to become sick, to help them for prevention. So this is how I came to the fitness area. So after working like 7 years in the hospital, I went out and then I started to work as a personal trainer from one gym to the other. But deep inside, I had this purpose. I discovered this purpose and goal. I wanted to have my own gym, you know. So and then I found a very small gym here in Munich, which was a little bit cheaper to take over. And then I get to know my husband, who studied about marketing. And then I asked him, I want to do this gym, and he said yes. That's a great idea. So we started together, you know. So this combination worked good, marketing plus the experience in medical and sports, and this became very successful until we started to develop this Bodystreet system, you know. So what I only wanted to say is, after that, when when we started this gym, like 2 years, I was pregnant. And that was very funny because people were looking me really like I'm crazy, because I was going to the gym, giving the exercise while I'm pregnant and coming back home very late, and they couldn't get it. So after the baby was born, and then we had the second baby, so all the neighbors, they were looking me really bad, because they were thinking like I'm not a good mother, you know. So but deep inside I knew, okay, this is my target and we develop, but I had to encourage myself to stay on the track. So only what I want to say, I totally accept what Jennifer said. We need more lobby work, you know, with in different area, maybe in small regions, to motivate women who have these purposes. Because at that time, if really I wouldn't stick on my goals, I would give up. I would say, maybe I would tell my husband, just go on and I will stay at home, take care of kids, because I was really feeling very guilty, especially in the fitness area, fitness branch. We are working until 11 o'clock in the night, 1 o'clock. So until I was home, it was 1 a.m. So yeah, so I think that's very good to develop different kinds of lobby work, or associations where we will work on it to encourage more women to stick in on their goals and not to be maybe silenced and then feel guilty and then not follow their goals. Because if I wouldn't do that, we wouldn't have 1,000 young people who are now in our system. They have jobs, they have education, and thousands of young people have been going through our system to study and also to do their educations. And also as a franchising system, we have 320 locations where there's many new entrepreneurs who started their businesses, even young women or middle age, or the women who have got children, and after the kids have left from home, they started this new business. They just joined the franchising system. So I think these have become a very big impact, and I'm happy that I didn't stop at that time. I wouldn't be discouraged from the other people's opinions.
Awesome, cool. So now we talked a little bit more about the internal factors, but now I really want to talk about the external factors again. And I want to ask you, Erica, what would be 2 or 3 things that you think a company, you know, could establish in order to, really empower women more, give them a platform, or more equal chances, so to speak?
Well, I think that often what is missing, it's let's say a dedicated welfare for women. So what I've heard very often, I mean, I still don't have a family, so I can't relate as of now, but what I hear that is often a challenge is the fear of maybe, you know, taking time off and then not having the position still available in the company, or having to make a career shift, or so I think that this is something very important. So to help women pursue their careers also in a more hybrid approach, giving them you know, more flexibility. I also think that, for example, in Italy, an issue that is different than Nordic countries, but for example, we don't have a welfare for husbands. So let's say you don't how can I say, you don't get any help, so it's always the woman that has to stay at home. So that's also another factor. But this is more at a country level, not so much also at the business level. And then, I mean, I think that education, so pushing women to take on, you know, extra educational courses. Although, I mean, for example, at Technogym, like there isn't really a difference between men and women, right? So we're you get the same opportunities that you would get as a man. So ultimately, also what it's very important, again, as I said before, it's also to make sure that more young girls or have access to education and keep on pursuing it, because in the end, if you have more people entering this funnel, you will also have more leaders in the future.
Totally agree. Barbara, What is the gender distribution like in your company? And what do you do in order to keep it that way? I just jinxed it.
Okay, in my company, this is also related to the other question. The first step, what we can do as a strong woman is to hire women. And I have all kind of ages. And I 60, 20, 30, 50, in percentage, 10% are guys. Funny that they took the year off because of kids.
I like that.
Yes, I liked it too. Very funny. But to support a long time before COVID, I said you can stay at home office because in Munich it's not easy to drive, and you can do your job from home, or you can take a week off or 2 weeks off. And we empower also the network, the platform, the option. I am very happy with working mainly with women because they have a very high EQ and IQ. And as we were all saying, we work differently to guys. We integrate the guys. But I think we can motivate, lead, have the brain and the heart, because, again, the relationship to Jennifer, I think we are very creative. It's a hormone thing. It's we want to share love, and we want to share power and peace. We want to lift not only women, also guys, everybody. This is why we are not that limited, and this is why I hire women, and the percentage in my company is female.
Awesome, cool. Jennifer, what is your ultimate career goal, and what do you do to actually reach that goal?
You know, when I was thinking about these questions, I'm like, it's not a position. It's actually a state of the state of existence for yeah, everyone. I would like. I ultimately want to be in a position where I feel like I can make the most profound impact in connecting people and helping people see their own superpowers and stand in them, so that we can get more people to be confident and clear about the direction that they want to take in their lives. And obviously, working for WIFA, that right now I have a very female focused. I have a very female focus in that area, but ultimately that's my career goal is to make a difference, and my career goal is to also be an example in this area.
Awesome. How about you, Susanne?
Yeah, I want to add to what Jen is saying. It's about making people grow. It's about moving forward together and giving people the opportunities and the platform and the training and the coaching to grow. And that's for women. That's also for men. It's about we like to support. We like to help. We like to be there and maybe hold hands like we do with our kids. That are strength as female leaders. And I think if we can make others grow and see people growing in a job, if I look now at the team that I have in Basic Fit France, the company is growing, people are growing, they're taking on new responsibilities, new challenges, and people are so super excited about seeing their own development. And I think that's, if we can continue to encourage people and empower people to look at that growth in themselves, yeah, then I will be hugely happy and excited.
Awesome. Emma, what are your daily actions, or what are daily actions that you would recommend to other people to grow and, you know, keep growing? Do you have any advice?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, for me, I think that it's very important. This is also my goal, just to work on me and be a good role model, a good mentor for many other girls. For example, you know, when people are small, yeah, I remember even when I was a child, you always need role models to develop. So when you are maybe a child and you have, or maybe Cinderella, this is your role model, and they would just act like Cinderella. But I think as you age, your role models are changing. Sometimes maybe in the school time, your role model is a teacher, you know. So I think that's very, very important for me. I was thinking how to get more girls in this leadership to become greater than me, make a big impact, because this is how it will move us forward, women, to be more, to get more acceptance from the men, and not only talking, yeah, we want our rights, because we have the rights already. We are free people, we can move, we can do whatever we want. So we don't need to talk about the rights like we said before, but just show that and go for it. So, but I think that these girls, young girls, they need also this example. They need role models, more role models. So for me later, as I grew older, I looked some role models, for example, Angela Merkel, our chancellor in Germany, how she was fighting against some men to show how strong she is, and she's really she's so big, and so I was looking, what is she doing? And she was teaching me some kind of things. I was looking, how is she acting? How is she reacting different situations? And this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be a good role model, because we have a lot of young girls in our system, really. They are coming, they are doing their education, and they are looking, okay, who is my role model? So I want to go forward to be this role model. And how can I do that? By yeah, I think leadership is also your behavior, your habits, to show what you are doing. And the other thing is maybe as a woman to add more value in the system that these girls can see, also boys, but in this case, girls can see, okay, what is she doing? We can create other things which are adding more value in the system. For example, I'm working a lot in the theme sustainability in the system. I have founded a Bodystreet Kids Foundation. We are going to the school. We are teaching young people to learn, young children to learn how to take their responsibility for their own life, for the future, about their health, about sports, about their personal development, personal growth, and not depending what the parents are saying. So this is kind of extra value in our system to show responsibility for the society. And also I am engaged a lot about the responsibility for the environment. For example, we have climate neutral in our central office and the other franchisees locations. So I work on these things, and I also create more value for the young people, for example, to start earlier their career in the franchising branch. For example, we have second generation where we support young people to, after they finish their studies, to be entrepreneur area. Also, I go outside, we go also outside Germany, and we also do this sustainability in the other countries. For example, also in Tanzania, we have started some projects to support young people, also with sports, and also caring about the environment, you know? So all these things, I think this adding more value is not only like leader to lead in the central office for more economic reasons. That's very, very important, but extra, to add extra value, I think this is what also the girls can see, women can see, how this will support to move forward, and they can get here maybe more example how they can lead also later.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Emma. Erica, do you have anything to add? Did you actually have a role model, and what were like the typical characteristics that you liked about that role model?
Well, I mean, my role model from a younger age was actually my dad. So, but he always taught me a lot of values. He's a very value-driven person. So he's always taught me to be authentic and to be humble and always keep an open mind and always try to, you know, challenge my beliefs and confront my ideas with other people. So I think that for me, values to grow are to always be curious, always get out of your comfort zone. And I think it is very important to, you know, how can I, create your own, through your own personality, create your own, let's say, become your own role model and lead by example. I think it is Growing is a collective process, so you cannot grow if you don't speak to other people, and if you don't challenge, and if you take yourselves too seriously, let's say. I think that it is quite funny because the fitness industry in general, right? We're all people that, not everyone, but let's say we should follow the sports model, right? Sports is meritocratic. It is all about results. So we should apply this not only to the actual competition, but also to business.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we were talking about a lot of characteristics. Do you still think that there is a gender bias, and why is there a gender bias, or what do you think is typical man?
Is this an open question?
This is an open question.
Okay. I'm gonna do a tangent, and then I'm gonna loop back to your question. I think it was said a couple of times as we were talking about gender equality and diversity that we hope in the future that we don't have to be talking about it anymore. And that sort of scares me because we haven't talked about it for so long. And there are hundreds and thousands of conversations that have to be had to get it to the point where it's a comfortable topic. Of course, in the world of everything should be on equal footing. Everyone should have the same race at the same starting blocks, but that's just not our world. That's not the situation. So I think that we need to start by really understanding the definitions of the basic definitions around diversity, equity, and inclusion, so that we can start having the conversations about the topics on equal footing.
Let me just jump in here. Do you have your definition of these three terms?
I knew you were going to. No, I don't know it. I don't know it out of the top of my head. But we just had a podcast with EuropeActive from our DE&I committee, where Sally Marone, who's also a committee member, and I were talking about equity. And I'm not an expert in this area. I'm just kind of diving in the shallow end. But just in diving in the shallow end, it makes me so aware of how much I don't know. And if I'm really interested in going there, that we probably, as a collective, have a lot of work to do in this area. But for a long time, I was using equality and equity kind of interchangeably, and that's not that they're not the same definition. Equality is everyone has the same chance. Equity is getting everybody to the same starting block on the same race, for the same race. You know what I mean? Going back to the gender bias. Yes, there's a gender bias in our world. There's a lot of programming that people get over what is for little girls and what is for little boys. And what I'm really encouraged about right now, I have a 14-year-old daughter, is she completely rethinks the whole gender spectrum. She blows my definition out of the water and makes me look at my programming. So I think the gender bias is our programming, and by really understanding what the definitions are around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and there are a lot of wonderful expert web resources that you can go to. And something that we've done at WIFA recently is we made ourselves a flashcard deck so that we can start making sure that we're talking about the same thing when we're talking about these things. But as I said, this was a tangent. It's just about, we're going to have 1,000 yucky conversations, and we just have to have the bravery to stick with them, to start investigating our programming so that we can progress as people.
So what do you think, not only companies, but only in society, what needs to be changed to change the programming, basically?
Yeah, I think it's what
Barbara?
Barbara, do you want to answer? Go ahead.
Yeah. I think really we are on a good way because, as you said, it's a lot about education and that girls had to be pressed in a role model. Our generation, approximately, well, not you, Maike, but all of us having kids, being teenagers, we are role models for them. We are strong, and I am very sure if I don't know your mother, I don't know your mother, I don't know Emma's mother. And the thing is, my mom has been very strong. She was a role model. So I passed this away. And I think if us as a generation, a female generation right now, talk to their girls or boys that influencing is not all about carrying an Hermes bag. Influencing can be in a very good way. Influencing in leaving a good footprint on earth. If it's environment, if it's sustainability, if it's in our job we can be gifted as not working in an alcohol company or tobacco. We are in fitness and sharing these importance of fitness we are doing, and I think not only in our job, because only also in the society. If our generation shares the knowledge how important strong female power can be, we are in a very good way.
Yeah. And I agree, and to add to that, I think it's in our everyday actions. It's what we bring in every discussion, what we share with each other, what we post on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, but it's about our examples. It's what we do in daily actions. How often do we discuss it with our team members? How often do we have a discussion that gives us amazing information from a 14-year-old teenager? So we can make that change if it's collectively and if everybody is doing their share of daily actions, it will move forward. And there's things happening. It's the moment. It's the moment.
Yeah. And it's also about the mindset of I can learn from anybody, right?
Sure. Yeah.
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 Okay.
There's so many role models. There's little things in everybody that we can learn from. We discussed it. It's not about age. We had the beautiful discussion this weekend where you say, I can learn so much from you. And we said, well, we can learn from you. And it's true. There's differences in everybody. There's something to learn from everybody. And there's daily actions to act upon. And then we can move forward together.
But we need this platform, and we need, a place where these women can meet. So that's why I really, like the work of the Women in Fitness Association, because as far as I know, this is the only platform in the fitness industry so far where this is possible. Or, I mean, if anybody else has an organization or any recommendation where, you could join or take part in some kind of educational sessions, please share this today. Anybody?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's not only about the associations or the platform. I really see it as every single day you have to take your own actions and your own decisions to make it move forward. It's not about waiting for the platform, it's about creating an everyday platform to discuss.
Yeah, no, I really like that. So what would be daily actions that somebody could take?
Make time. If we're talking about specifically educating yourself around diversity, it's like honing any other knowledge or skill set and make it small. Like block off, find some trusted resources, block off 5, 10, 15 minutes recurring in your schedule and just dive into it, listen to podcasts, read books, whatever it is, but make it a part of your daily practice that shows up in your agenda on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be huge, but if you repeat it, it will become a part of your awareness. It'll become a part of your practice.
Erica, do you have anything to add for that?
No, I just think that, as I was saying before, to keep this in mind, in everything you do, right? So also in every action, whenever you have an interpersonal relationship with people, like whatever you do, you should keep in mind all the values and always, give the opportunity to share, also your experience, what worked, what didn't work, and definitely, obviously listening also to the other people, and this will definitely help both boys and girls, So also not only mentoring girls, but also mentoring boys. I think this is also important.
That's true. Yeah, they have to live with us, right? It's not only about the women. And in general, what you said earlier, Susanne, I think there is still a lot of opportunity not to discuss this kind of topic just among women, but really include everybody, get as many perspectives as possible, because only if we really exchange and, you know, really consider all the different perspectives, we can win, you know?
For sure.
I know that you were mentioning. Go for it.
No, I already mentioned it. It is fun if we stay in the bubble of discussing female leadership only among females or etc. Then the change is not going to happen in general in our companies, because we work with men, with women, etc. So I think it's about the open discussion of having it together. And I think it's amazing if we look that we can have this panel discussion and we have beautiful leaders already in this industry. Yeah, let's just continue the discussion.
Awesome, perfect. I'm looking at the time, so I would say maybe everybody gives one more statement and one actionable item that you would really advise not only females but also the men to consider in order to keep this positive, I would say, movement forward.
I'm thinking. You want me to go first?
Jen?
Oh, yeah. Volunteer me. No, again, this is about making time to start having making it an agenda item, you know, and being open enough to ask for help. Here's another theme that came out of our conversation today. When you don't know how to have the conversation, because there's a ton of experts out there that can help. So it's you know, in larger organizations, reaching out to the HR department to do a little bit of a self-analysis on, you know, how am I ensuring an equitable opportunity for all of the employees in my organization. WIFA is really committed to this as an organization. Like, we've put ourselves through an equity audit that has given us a roadmap for the coming 12 to 18 months, so that we're constantly looking from the inside out. And we're fortunate enough to have Dynasty Hunt, who's an expert on this, on our board, but there are many European experts in this area. So asking for help to have the conversation and then keeping it on your agenda until it becomes a part of your DNA.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Okay,
Barbara?
I'm finally my last. Finally, I think also that besides sharing knowledge and inform about platforms, I am also a fan of donation. It's always a little bit more than just talking about. It doesn't matter. It can be kids, cancer, abused women. I need to have your help in whatever kind of topic. And this is also something what I think, if on one side we get, you should pass it away.
Yeah.
So then it's not a vicious circle, then it's a lifting circle.
Get, give.
Yeah, about sharing and bringing it on, giving it on, sharing. I think there's a beautiful quote, if we could add it a little bit to the female and the male. I think that empowered women empower men, and I think if we continue on giving on and sharing and having the discussion and being open about our differences and our strengths, then I think we can empower each other.
That is beautiful. Emma, your last sentences.
Yes, in order to be empowered, I totally agree. I think it's very important. My advice for women is we are multitasking. Yeah, we like to do like different stuffs. That's why we are really good mothers. We can be mothers, grow up children, taking care of family, cooking for the family, all this stuff. And also at the same time, this is full-time job, and at the same time, build up a company, and also this company to make it more successful. So this is really a lot of multitasking there. So my advice is when you just decide what you want to do, what do you want to reach? What's your goals for your personal development, or also in your company, in your business? So after you have this, maybe my advice is take care of this multitasking, that you don't lose your target. Though you have this multitasking, a lot of things to do, but put your targets also forward. And this target must be, of course, very big and have a huge passion in you. And then, like we said before, take extra time. For example, wake up earlier. This is what I also do. Wake up earlier and then plan what you are going to do for this every day, for everyday schedule, in order to educate yourself. Because many times, if we go to work and then there's different things which are going on, we come home, the kids want this and that, and then you have to bring this kid there and then pick them up, and then then you realize that you are only stressed out, and you don't move forward for your targets. So that would be my advice. Reduce, focus on what you want to do, and then take extra time where you know there's no disturbance to work on your target until you are there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. It was a pleasure discussing this, because I really think it's time, as you said, Jennifer, to really put this on the agenda more often. Start really to discuss it. Also inviting men and inviting all the different genders, and really just make time to really discuss this topic. And yeah, ladies, get out of your comfort zone. Find somebody who supports you. Don't be afraid to ask. This is really important. Start networking, and there's so many women that are so happy to help you. And let's just, as you said, Susanne, let's empower each other and then also empower the men. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'll give the closing remarks after a fantastic couple of live sessions today from Düsseldorf, and I hope you've all seen that we have the on-demand sessions. They're also available online right after this session. First of all, I would like to thank all of you colleagues for joining us today from around Europe and from around the world. Let's make sure that we face the challenges of COVID-19 and turn these challenges into future opportunities. At EuropeActive, we last year presented our sectoral manifesto towards 2025. We're offering what we believe is a very well thought through vision for the coming years in terms of moving our sector towards becoming a public health solution. We do not underestimate the complexity of that task, and therefore we have initiated a lot of different projects, initiatives, events, educational publications, and so on, in order to inspire and in order to motivate our sector in Europe and across the world in that direction. I would strongly encourage all of you to sign our manifesto online on EuropeActive.eu. Also, I would like to express my profound gratitude to all of our key stakeholders, our board, notably our EuropeActive team, who have done an outstanding job and really moving together, uniting, working extremely hard for less resources, being under contingency to an extent during the Corona period. And also, of course, our key stakeholders like the members of the President's Council for Operators and the President's Council for Suppliers, Digital and Tech, that we established also during the Corona period, during the lockdowns. I've been quite impressed, being relatively new in my current position for EuropeActive. I've been impressed by how much the sector has come together, how generous our supporters have been, and how willing our supporters have been to share insight, data, and expertise in terms of getting us successfully as EuropeActive, as the European Trade Association, and as a sector collectively through this challenging period. So I'm 100% confident that we will get out stronger in the other end. I do not underestimate the challenges that part of our ecosystem are facing. across Europe, but without putting our collective brainpower together, uniting our resources through the trade associations of EuropeActive and our national association partners, we'll certainly get through and become a stronger sector towards in the coming years. And thanks so much to our female leaders who just held a very inspiring session on female leadership and how we get more female leaders at the top leadership of our sector. We certainly need to build trust and confidence in our sector. We need to be more inclusive. That goes for our workforce, and it goes for it goes for our sector expanding our market. It's an ethical question to treat our colleagues and to treat our employees right and equally and fairly. That's an ethical and moral question, but there's also an economic rationale in terms of expanding our market, making sure that consumers and citizens across Europe trust our sector and feel that we are a professional and mature sector who are ready to do all the good stuff that we will do for society in terms of health, well-being, and so on. And of course, in terms of attracting the most qualified workforce, the most qualified employees, in order to get there, in order to achieve that great goal of becoming a respected, recognized public health solution in the coming years, we need to attract the most qualified people, and therefore, again, we need to make sure that we have equal and fair and attractive, inspiring, motivating workplaces, as our female colleagues just spoke about a moment ago. In the name of transparency and accountability, EuropeActive will be publishing our status report for 2020 and 2021 this summer, where all of our stakeholders can look through and see the initiatives, projects, events, and so on we presented during the special period of the pandemic. And we, of course, hope that you will share your feedback, your comments, and your great ideas in this regard in terms of how we build and expand EuropeActive in the coming years towards our 2025 horizon. And we also hope that you will join us on the 9th of September when we have the next pre-EHFF virtual session. And there will be a special program which will soon be out for the 9th of September. We will, with Deloitte and some of our key partners, take stock at a sort of, or present a more deep analysis of the impact of COVID-19 on our sector on that date. And most importantly, of course, our big program during the FIBO week. Of course, we're here at the FIBO headquarters. We're extremely grateful for FIBO for all the support during the pandemic period and for hosting us here today. And we will encourage you all, of course, to sign up, to register for the big week in November, the first week of November, where we have, as EuropeActive, some very important events leading up to the FIBO week trade show weekend. We are starting with the European Health and Fitness Forum on the 3rd of November. I'll come back to the keynote speakers that we are able to announce today in a minute. We have the President's Council Summit on the 4th of November. We have the European Fitness Associations Forum on the 4th of November. And it should be underscored again that the EFAF community, the European Fitness Associations community of the European national associations, have done an outstanding job in terms of getting our sector relatively safety and secure through this period of challenges. And we're inviting all of our national association leaders from around Europe to come to Cologne and to define the future for us in unison, together, united, pooling all of that great brain power to define the future of our sector. And on the Friday, we have the International Standards meeting, which will be a special international standards meeting with an outstanding set of speakers on the Friday of the FIBO week, that is the 5th of November of this year. So please register. Registration is open on the EuropeActive website. And as a big announcement today, extraordinary announcement, we can announce the key speakers of the EHFF. We are extremely proud and privileged to have Dr. Fiona Bull from the United Nations, who will join us to address the health pillar of our manifesto, being, of course, the first part of our program at the EHFF. We have the EU Commissioner Gabriel, responsible for physical activity, health-enhancing physical activity. We have Dr. Neurologist Imran Rashid, who will define or present to us and inspire us with how our sector can positively influence mental health and well-being. We, of course, at EuropeActive speak very much about physical, social, and mental well-being, the WHO definition of health. And of course, it's very important for us as a sector to start defining on the basis of evidence and scientific knowledge how our sector can positively influence the mental health and well-being of Europeans. As our activators for the 4 columns during that day, we have Alfonso Jimenez, who is leading Think Active, which is EuropeActive's research center and think tank. We have Natalia Kobasova, who is from Fit Tech Summit. I'm sure all of you know her. She has done a fantastic job inspiring and educating our sector on digital and tech. Over the past years, she'll be our activator for the column, for the pillar of digital, the digital pillar of our manifesto. Then we have Tony Stone, who is part of our DEI advisory group. DEI is short for diversity, equity and inclusion. So they are the experts that are advising EuropeActive on how we become a more inclusive sector and a more inclusive association. And then last but certainly not least, Anna Bogdanova. She will be the activator, so leading the conversation on standards and upskilling our sector in the coming years. And very importantly, Jennifer, as you met a few moments ago during the during the session on female leadership, she'll be our host. You will not be missing Herman. He will be there, and he will give us an update on the market situation, the market data, and the COVID-19 impact on our sector. But Jennifer will, for the first time, be our host, which we are extremely proud and happy about. And on that note, I should say as well, of course, regarding our program today, we're extremely happy that WIFA joined us as a supporter and as a partner in today's event, together with FIBO, of course. Yes, before we end, personal note relating a bit to the DEI area. I think we as a sector, you know, we have many challenges, and of course rebuilding our sector after Corona poses many challenges, but I have absolutely no doubt that we will come out stronger. We have the collective brain power, we have superbly professional people, insightful people, we have the scientific community behind us. I think another thing that is really important, I mentioned it briefly before, is that we build trust and confidence from the outside world in our sector, build trust and confidence with European citizens in our sector. And one way to do this is to address what we call the community pillar of the EuropeActive manifesto. That is to act as a socially responsible sector. And in that regard, and on a final note, I would present a message of solidarity with the mayor of Munich and the citizens of Munich who has taken the bold step to cover the stadium in Munich in the pride colors, in the rainbow flag. That message is a really positive, inclusive message that doesn't only relate to the gay and LGBTQ+ community, but to inclusion in general, to the fundamental human rights of each person to be who he or she wants to be, and to love whoever he or she wants to love. That should not be, in my opinion, a political question. It should be above politics. It's about fundamental rights. We are in Germany right now. I will quote the first words of the German constitution, the first article. Die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar, with a Danish accent. Sorry for that, but it comes from a very honest place. So the worth of each human being is inviolable. The worth of each human being should be untouchable, and therefore, of course, we as a sector should be solidary with all of our employees, with all of our colleagues across Europe who happen to be part of the LGBTQ+ community. But really this message is much wider. It's really about having the right to be whoever you want and feel included in your community, in your sector, in your workplace, and so on. And with that, I will end my comments on a inclusive and fairness or inclusion and fairness note, and say let's build a sector that we can be proud of, that has the best possible workplaces, that are inclusive, that are fair, that are equal, and thereby will achieve a true meritocracy, a truly capable, professional workforce that will be able to take us to the great ambition of becoming that great public health solution in the years to come. Thanks so much for joining us today. Please take part, or please join the on-demand sessions that will be open and ready to be watched in a minute on the EuropeActive website. Thanks so much for joining us today, and great job out there. Thanks so much.